We're talking about third-party database manipulation and how you can expect to deal with putting your inventory on these platforms for sale. Hold on a second. You're going to want better lighting for this one. We're talking about inventory database management. We're talking about platforms like Walmart, Amazon, Target, eBay, and I'm going to tell you the differences between how these databases work and what you can expect. And so this can be a huge obstacle for people that aren't prepared for how these databases work, which means you've got your inventory, you've got your sellers that the platforms drive to your products, basically do your marketing for you. But how are you going to control your product database? How are you going to control the quantities, the items, the item attributes, things like that? And so I'm going to tell you how they work so you can be a little more prepared before you invest a bunch of money into a system that's really not working very well. So for example, you have what's called a shared database and you have what's called an independent database. So on eBay, you build your own database, which allows you complete control over your products. So for the most part, you can copy other people's product pages on eBay, but then you make all those changes anyway. So you're basically creating a product page separate from the platform with your attributes, your prices, your quantities, your picture, your description, bullet points, things like that. You're customizing your own shipping using the shipping customization tools, which are a complete mess on eBay. But Amazon and Walmart are what's called shared databases, and that means somebody built those databases up to 10 years ago, and they're constantly building them. But in general, a lot of the products you're going to list have been built 5, 10 years ago, and they're kind of locked in, which means if they have mistakes on them, you're not going to be able to change them. Now, granted, a lot of those get taken down. Amazon goes through, they find product pages with mistakes on them and take them down. But basically, a shared database means all you do is input the SKU on your item. You have to have the SKU for the most part, and then you copy, which means you're borrowing that product page, but whenever someone buys, they go back to that original product page. So you, as the seller, as an independent seller, can only control your particular borrowed copy in terms of quantity and price. So you're going to put in, I have 6 of these t-shirts, they're $13 a piece. You can do that, but if the picture's wrong, the picture's a toothbrush, which a lot of times it is, nothing you can do about it. So you'll just pass on that particular product page. The problem is if you list a product on a shared database platform, and then someone comes through and they get the ability to change something, which happens randomly. That's how these pages slowly and kind of randomly get updated or get deleted. If someone comes through and deletes it, or if someone comes up and puts a different picture in there on purpose of a toothbrush, your t-shirt is now listed as a toothbrush. The description may still be a t-shirt. You'll still have what you control. You'll still have your price and quantity, but the consumer will see the toothbrush, and they might see the description might say a t-shirt. Or they could change the text, leave the picture up of the t-shirt, and the text now says it's a toothbrush. Here's another one on a shared database. When you list a t-shirt, picture of a t-shirt, you list it and the product page looks fine, and you include it in your shared database with Amazon. What can happen is people can put in the text, they can add to the text sometimes. Go watch the video on BuyBox. But BuyBox is supposed to give you rights to manipulate these product pages based on your performance, based on how long you've been doing it. And sometimes Amazon internally will do this, but what can happen is the text can change and say 2-pack. I don't mean 2-pack Chakern. I mean, it can say quantity 2 in the description. You can list one t-shirt, but the description says a 2-pack of the t-shirts. Because technically, if there was a 2-pack of the particular t-shirt you're selling, which there would never be, but if there was, it would have its own SKU as a 2-pack. So if they convert that SKU into a 2-item per package product, then you have to send 2. Or then you send the one thinking everything's normal and you get the complaint saying I only got one of my 2 t-shirts. Then you go check on the shared database page. I hope this isn't too complicated for new sellers because I'm aware that what I'm describing is something you learn over years and years and years. But just be prepared for a shared database where you don't have control over your product pages, or something like eBay where you build your product page. And for the most part, can control the mistakes. If there's a mistake, you made it. And so you can do it that way, and it takes a lot longer to build the page. So when you list something on eBay, it can take you 20 minutes. You list something on Amazon, it can take you 20 seconds. And that's the idea behind the shared database. But then the problems they had made a lot of people go back and go, maybe this wasn't the best idea to have a huge database of every product ever made for the most part, anything that's ever been contributed by sellers and by the Amazon team that goes in and does this shared versus having an empty blank internal website like on eBay where you have to build every product page and put in the picture, put in the attributes, put in the drop down if you're using a drop down menu, put in all the text, put in all the shipping calculations. And eBay has tried to automate this with a lot of different automation um, systems, including now you being able to log into your eBay account and going in and manipulating as if it's a spreadsheet. You can go in and do quantities from a main window without going into the product page, where you bring up all of your inventory, just click a quantity button. It looks like a spreadsheet. You go in and change the number. Super easy. And that seems to work pretty good. So eBay, in some sense, and anything like eBay where you have an independent database, is going to alleviate that problem. But it's going to be longer building your pages. So again, this is off topic, but when you spend a lot of time building product pages and then you have a problem with the product or with that platform or with that particular account, you've lost all the work you put in. So if you spend a year building a 10,000 page eBay catalog and then you get kicked off that account, you've lost that work. Now, granted, I'm aware that there's automation here. You can upload spreadsheets, and there's automation on every one of these platforms where you're uploading. So on eBay, you're uploading all the different attributes for 100 products at one time. The problem with doing that is it's not very accurate, and it seems to have all kinds of problems. The eBay one obviously would work better, and it would be more necessary if you had a lot of products. Whereas on Amazon, all you're doing is uploading a few, you're basically telling it to borrow from the shared catalog for multiple quantities of products at the same time. That's when it's a shit show because you're not looking at 1,000 product pages. Whereas if you list independently in a shared catalog, you're looking when you first list it at least what it looks like to the consumer. You can troubleshoot and say, I'm not going to list it. So I'm going to end that there for inventory management. That was one of the big 5 obstacles. How to control your inventory. That's something you need to be prepared for if you're going to spend a bunch of money going into any retail, building your own website, dealing with Google, dealing with any of the third-party platforms. Same kind of problems you might have with the brick and mortar. So that's the inventory intro video. Thanks for shopping.